Welcome to the Midtwn Podcast. You know who it is, man. It's M-A-Y-R, and I've got my boy to the left, my host.
What's good with y'all? My name's Castor Reigns, Castor Baby. Don't care what you call me, just make sure it's got that Cass in it.
Right, and don't call him Collect, because that's a fee. But anyways, we got a special guest today. Y'all know what my name is. It spells mayor. I have my favorite mayor. The best mayor that Nashville has ever had. You can even ask your mama. She will tell you. She was the best mayor that Nashville ever had. Got Megan Berry in the house. How you doing, mama?
I am so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We
welcome.
glad.
Not welcome to me. Welcome. Thank you for asking me to come.
She said, "Welcome to me." I've never heard that in my life. I'm about to start.
Yeah.
saying
So
that.
okay. So do you know how I got here?
I do not.
I have no idea. You let
No,
me know.
not today.
Okay.
Like I drove. That's how I got here today.
Oh.
No, I mean like how I'm on this here today.
I don't know. You tell me.
No, you tell me.
Oh, okay. So how me and Megan have become friends over the years. I didn't know that's what you're getting at.
Sorry.
So the first time I met Megan, we were at a Vanderbilt party I was working at, right? I actually have a part in a song I just released where I talked about how I worked these certain parties where I got in to meet these important people, right? So me and some people that were working at the same event were working by the bathroom. So Miss Berry comes up. She's been having a good time. It was a fun party.
It was a fun party. I remember.
Fun party. And she comes up. She's like, "Hey guys, where's the bathroom?" And we're like, "That's Megan Berry." We're like, "Hey Megan, the bathroom's right there." And she sat and talked to us for probably maybe a minute or two. Then she had to use the restroom. So randomly, in my spare time, I like to work Uber a lot. And so I was driving and I seen somebody that I was picking up. Name was Megan. I've met probably 2,000 Megans in my whole entire life. They're all great. And so I'm just thinking this is somebody named Megan. And then all of a sudden, Megan gets in my car. And I was like, Megan, I've met you before, blah, 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 blah. And we just reconnected and it was great. It was a good, 10, 15 minute ride?
Yeah,
We went
it was
to East
great.
Nashville.
It was awesome.
Yeah. What festival was that again?
Was it the Tomato Festival?
It was some kind of vegetable.
It was a fest. Yeah, there was a vegetable involved. I'm not sure which one, but I'm pretty sure it was the Tomato Festival.
I almost wanted to go because I was like, dang, there's a whole festival about
Yeah, it was
tomatoes.
definitely the Tomato Festival.
Yeah, it was. How was it?
It was good. It rained. You probably don't remember, but it rained, and so there were lots of red, paint of people that were
nice.
Yeah, but it was, as always, Nashville knows how to throw a party, so it was a good time. It was fun. Yeah.
So speaking of parties, if the two times that I've met you, you seem to be a life of the party type of person. Okay, you don't really seem like you're a politician at all. So what made Megan Berry want to get into politics?
Well, so first of all, I think you actually, it's to your benefit if you actually like people. So maybe that's what you're seeing. I mean, I like to talk to people because I'm interested in your life experience, what's troubling you, what's exciting you, what the piece is. And I think that actually then feeds you into being somebody who wants to do public service. You use the word politician. I'll say public servant. How's that?
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Servant, hey, that's a big word. I don't think I ever used servant a day in my life. I'm not even going to ask you. I'm not even going to hold you, but one thing that I am going to ask you though is just with your, how your last term ended and everything like that. You literally, because everybody in Nashville loves you. Your street cred.
Thank you.
Your street cred is 100. I'll talk to a lot of people. You have a lot of street cred, right?
Thanks.
So what makes you want to just come out the window out of nowhere? Because when I met you the last time, I didn't know anything about you running. I just followed you from that point.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I see a post from Mayor Berry and it says, "I'm running for Congress."
Yep.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because at this point in the world, having folks who are reasonable, who actually want to get stuff done, is what we need in D.C. And yesterday this race dramatically changed a little bit. The guy I was going to run against, dropped out, and he said, Congress is broken. Well, It is. I mean, the fact that he's part of the broken and doesn't want to help fix it is kind of a problem.
Is it broken or did it break?
Or did he help break it? But, it is broken. And I think that the only way we fix it and we fix our government that actually does stuff for us is to put people in there who want to get stuff done. And that's why I decided, you know what? I'm going to run. Why not?
Yeah, I hear that. So expound on that a little bit.
Sure.
It's something that you say, in your reels, which you do a really good job of those. Great quality. Not gonna lie, you've got the captions at the bottom, pretty color.
Well, you know why? Because I understand that that's how most people take that stuff in.
It gets people's attention because like people's attention spans like these days in the era of like social media, where my attention span, I'm pretty sure I can speak for most people, are like squirrels. Like we can't pay attention like that long. And then when you've got the pretty letters at the bottom with the nice font and the green color,
thanks.
People pay attention. You have called them, probably a couple of times, you call them the do nothing party.
Yeah.
Why do you say it?
Well, because factually, this Congress has passed less bills and done since like in a long time in history. I think I saw the stat the other day. It's like they passed 29 bills, and the one previous to that passed over like 85. So they're not doing anything. Yeah. I mean, and they spend a lot of time not doing anything. And I want them to spend a lot more time doing something.
That's great that you say that, Meg, because a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation that goes on I'm calling it Twitter. I refuse to acknowledge any X. So I'm going to call it Twitter.
I just call it a dumpster fire, but you can call it if that's what you want.
And a lot of people, they just think that, it's a bunch of narratives to go around. People are frustrated. So whatever narrative that they see that aligns with their frustration, they just kind of go with. But I've never heard that this Congress has only passed 29 bills. And how long have they been in? Almost 2 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been in what, 4 years?
2.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what are they doing? Do you know?
So what are they doing?
Yeah.
They hold a lot of hearings. And they do a lot of that stuff, which doesn't get anything done. I mean,
they got to be dizzy from all those circles.
I know, right? Exactly. I mean, it looks like they're doing something, but I think that's the illusion.
Right.
And so, anyway, I just believe that Tennesseans, all of us, we deserve better.
Absolutely.
We do. And you all definitely deserve better. I mean, I'm a little older than you. So
girl, you 29.
For always forever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be realistic.
Thanks. And it's like my generation's responsibility to at least try to make it a little bit better for you all. I mean, because we haven't done such a great job so far. So, maybe I can help a little on that.
Well, that was definitely one of my questions, because one thing that I always find curious is if you look at just like the demographic that's in politics. A lot of them are a little bit older than us. And as far as like for my generation and his generation, connecting is a big thing.
Sure.
And like he was kind of saying with social media, you get about 15 seconds of people's time, and you got to make those 15 seconds count.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier about, you consider yourself a public servant. I personally, as I knock my mic over, I personally think that, the term politician has been weighed down so much just by the banter that you see whenever you watch any type of primary or any type of debate. And, having someone kind of like you, he spoke about some of the things that have been in conversation with you and things of that nature. And personally speaking, the older that I get, the more that I can appreciate somebody that has real human aspects of their life,
Sure.
And I think it's a testament to who you are, just as, you were mayor of Nashville, which is a huge accomplishment in itself.
Thank you.
But then now you're trying to go to Congress. And I mean, for the past 8 years, it's literally just been running in circles.
Yeah.
And so what do you think, if you are elected, what do you think that you bring to the table that could kind of help change that narrative?
Sure. Now, that's a great question. And first of all, let me go back to say one of the things that everybody can do is to register to vote. Because the participation in our democracy, you can look at the age, and it just goes down. The curve goes down by age, where folks who are less engaged, less interested, or don't think it matters, right? I mean, I think that's really the narrative is people think, why should I vote? Like, why is my vote ever going to count? Well, it does. And I can tell you right now that we know exactly how many votes we need to win this.
Right.
And it's, it's math. I mean, you can figure it out. But I think, going back to your question, like, what am I going to bring to DC? Well, what I hope is I'm going to bring is like a voice that's actually a moderate voice that's going to do stuff. When I was the mayor of Nashville, I'm a Democrat, so like I'll just put that out there. But we don't run on parties in Davidson County.
Right.
You run nonpartisan. So I worked with Governor Haslam. We worked together, and not because we had these parties, but because what we wanted to do was get stuff done for the people who needed it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I take to DC. I think I take the heart of a mayor who knows that actually you want to do stuff for your constituents because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
How long have you been in politics? We obviously know,
Sure.
the reason as to why you got into it, but somebody like me who kind of has a sales background, one of the biggest things in that is selling yourself. So you had plenty of different avenues that you could have taken some of these qualities that you have. How long have you been doing politics though, and what drives you every single day, I guess, to go into the office and do what you're doing?
So first of all, sales. I love that you're in sales.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it is about selling yourself.
Right.
You got to get people to believe in you, trust you, and then vote for you. In fact, the other day I was doing some candidate training, and I was telling them, because I've kind of got a sales background from before too. Yeah, okay, I did. I actually sold timeshare, but we don't have to talk about that.
We won't judge.
We don't have no
judge.
judges. Anyway,
Wow.
but I was telling the folks in the candidate training is you need to get people saying yes. So like when you're calling somebody up for money, you're like, so hey, are you a registered voter? You already know they are because you got it.
Right.
Yes. Have you voted? Have you actually given money to Democrats before? Yes. It's that whole idea of get them to say yes, 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 so that when you say,
Your
hey,
main question,
can I get you to support me? They're like,
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's stuff like that, which is the the
hard.
old sales stuff. But but I say that it's not a trick. It's just that there is something about talking with people that gets them excited, gets them fired up, and if they believe in you and they like you, that's most of the battle.
Absolutely.
And then they're willing to say, like, what can I do? Like, how can I help? And so my trajectory for politics was never one where I thought that I would do this. I mean, I didn't grow up and think. In fact, the first election I ever ran was when I was in 5th grade, and I lost by 1 vote.
Who was the person that didn't vote for you?
Me. I didn't vote for myself. I voted for my best friend because she was running. We were running against each other.
Yeah.
I will
wild.
say I disagree with that path, but that's the type of person we need in office. The other person before me, right? So,
Right.
For sure.
So, in fact, I remember having dinner that night. My mom had come, and she was one of the room mothers and had like counted the votes. And she looked at me, she's like, you lost by 1 vote. And I'm like, really? She's like, and I know your handwriting.
Right.
She said, you voted for Ann. And I'm like,
Never make that mistake.
Well,
nope.
At least she only lost by one vote.
But it also shows you how important one vote is, even in 5th grade.
Your vote matters. I think the first time I ever ran for anything like that, I was in 6th grade.
See? Okay.
And I ran for something, and I forget what I ran for. It was something in, I wasn't a president. It might have been a vice president or something like that. I low confidence, so I didn't want to be president. I know I'm going to win. So I lost by probably a lot, and I never ran again. So the fact that you lost and you told yourself that, hey, I'm going to keep, this is what I want to do for my life. I feel like that this is what my purpose is. And so you kept going, and that's admirable, to be honest.
Well, it took me a couple more times because I had a lot more lessons to learn. But finally, I did run and win for Metro Council at large. So I ran countywide, and that was in 2006, 2007 was when we came into office.
That was when Carl Dean was in office,
Yep, that was the same year
Yeah.
that Carl Dean ran and won. And so I was only, at that point, that there's 5 at-larges. And at that point, I was only the 4th woman to win and to sit in those at-large seats, like since 1965. which is crazy.
What was
Right.
it like that first day? Sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
go
but
ahead.
Just that first day walking in to like sit down in your chair. Was
was
it just
pretty
kind of like a
awesome.
surreal moment for you?
Yeah, it was
I
great.
bet.
It was
I bet.
really cool. I mean,
Cool.
and again, this whole, then I spent 8 years on that in that piece of the legislation or in the legislative branch, and it was great. I really liked it, and that was I never thought I'd run for mayor, but I did that, and then it was like, you know what?
Let me shoot my shot.
I think that this is something I can see that next piece of being able to help, and again, going back to how can I help?
Right.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome.
So it seems like your career is just kind of, just based on what you're saying, it's been very organic, not really with something in mind, like as a plan. It's just, where can I best fit to help find a solution?
I think that would be
which I honestly think
Yeah.
is the best mentality that you can have. Because what we see a lot, at least from what the media wants to show us, what we see a lot on TV is, I mean, if you listen to these people that are trying to run for president right now, it is a ego boost. You're trying to stroke their ego. They're trying to get to that position more for the title than for the opportunity. And I think to have somebody with your mindset and just with a background that backs that up, that's very refreshing. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. I think it's an honor to run for any office because that means we live in a democracy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd
Not
like
every
to have
country.
that.
Not every country.
That's right.
Has that blessing, So I'm grateful every day that we don't live in a society to where our voices don't matter.
Right.
There's a big narrative online, on Twitter and Facebook that our votes don't matter, and that's really just not true. The first thing that I did when I was 18, going back to one of your points about people not registering to vote,
Right.
One of the first things I did when I was 18 was register to vote. I was so
Awesome.
excited to vote. I come from a political background. My mom, she worked with the Democratic Party coming up. She worked with Bredesen. I have a picture
That's great.
with Bredesen when I was like
I love
3
that.
years old. Me and my sister like sitting on his lap. So, my mom
awesome.
was, big time like in Nashville. She worked for the state of Tennessee. She got to meet like Clinton, Bush, this Sunquist, a lot of guys. You know, he stole a lot of money, but whatever. But she was around like during that time or whatever. So, I've always known the importance of voting. Every single election that we have,
Yep.
What county that I lived in Sumner County for a long time, just moved back to Davidson County. It doesn't matter if we was voting for the hall monitor. I made sure
You
that
made
my
sure you were
voice,
voting.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure, no doubt.
Well, we actually have an election coming up March 5th, which is not really on most people's radar because
Right.
it's a judge race, a couple school board, and then tax assessor.
Yeah.
And so most people, I think it'll be a really low turnout. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure you get people out to vote.
But those are the positions that really
They matter.
a
They
lot.
do.
A lot of people think like, okay, well, if it's not the mayor or if it's
Right.
not the president, who cares?
That's
Let me
right.
tell you,
But those
school
are
board
things-
matters right now.
Yeah,
It
school
does.
board
School
matters.
board matters.
Right now.
And also the judge race matters. This is a
Yes.
judge race in family court.
Yeah.
Lots
Okay.
of people end up
Yeah.
having to spend time in family court, and having a judge in
Yeah.
that position
Right.
that you
Yeah.
trust is really amazing.
People
So-
get really upset about, judge rulings and things like that. Well, a lot of people don't know that you can actually vote judges out. It doesn't.
It
People just
hardly
think that
happens,
it hardly happens. But the thing is
That's
it's
right.
like, you can vote these people in. You can vote these people out. Am
Yeah,
I wrong?
absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
we do all this marching and everything. It's great. I'd be at them. But the thing is like if you want to actually make change, you got to show up to vote.
Right.
You
You
know,
do.
one thing that I learned from Ricky Smiley growing up when I was a kid was, look, if you don't vote, he said this when I was 8 or 9 years old. He said, if you don't vote, don't complain.
Right.
Straight
Right.
up.
Right.
It's our duty as Americans to
Exactly.
It is.
go out and vote.
It is.
Yeah.
And we have and Tennessee. Hey, look, Tennessee makes it hard.
They do.
Where a lot of other states make it a whole lot easier to vote.
Right.
But we make it hard because, well, I don't say we.
Yeah.
I didn't make it hard.
Right.
I wouldn't make it hard, but
Right.
but there are some people who do.
For sure.
Because they're not really that interested in hearing what you and I have to say.
Right. So let's change topics.
Sure.
Just a little
What do you
bit.
want to talk about?
So you mentioned earlier, this was to my disgust. Honestly, I did not know you were from Kansas City.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So you probably most likely grew up a Chiefs fan. Congratulations.
More
on
than
your,
likely.
on your Super Bowl
Absolutely.
ring. But unfortunately, something that happened yesterday.
It sure did.
There was a shooting that happened. I believe one person lost their life. Another 21 were injured, and we seem to keep having this happen even more. We've gotten to a point to where I've even became numb to it. I've lost friends over a mass shooter. And it just keeps happening, and it's almost got to a point to where it's just like, oh, mass shooting. What else is new?
Right?
Unfortunately.
We're so...
Yeah.
So the stat I saw yesterday is what are we, about 45 days into... What is this? We've had 49 mass shootings in 45 days.
Wow. That
And
is
so
insane.
talk about being immune to it, because
Yeah.
it happens all the time. We are the
Yeah.
one country in the world where this happens,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for it.
You meet people from other countries. I had a friend in Australia. I'm not going to go into the story, but she said that, even us having metal detectors at football games is crazy. And she says, why do you have like all these type of guns? We don't even have that in Australia, and they're crazy. Like we ain't getting into that, but like they're crazy in Australia, and they think that we're wild.
Right.
So if you get elected into we're going to say win. Like we're
Just say
we're
win.
voting for you
Let's
to win.
speak
We're going
it.
to say win.
Yeah.
We're going to
Let's
say
say
win.
it out loud,
When
yeah.
you get in Congress, I know you're going to have an uphill battle to fight.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your plans on trying to get this under some kind of control?
So, yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think you're right. There's so many different factions, but actually there are some things that we all agree on as Americans. Strip the party stuff away, and that is universal background checks. Like,
Right.
and anybody who has a reason to not have a handgun or a gun shouldn't have one, and we should know that.
Right.
If you show up at a gun show, you should have to have a background check. I mean,
Right.
there are just some real basic things that we do agree on. Safe storage. Your gun should be locked up. Do you know that we had over 1,000 guns stolen in Davidson County out of cars last year?
Yeah.
Because people just leave their guns in their cars. I'm sorry, you need to actually be responsible, lock your gun up, and make it safe. And that to me seems pretty easy. And just making sure that domestic violence abusers are not given their handguns back. I mean, there's just basic stuff, and we can do it at the federal level because a lot of times the states aren't going to take care of it. I mean, look at Tennessee. We're not going to do that. We're going to give you a tax break if you buy a gun safe, but we're not going to actually, which is fine. We'll give you a tax break. But maybe we should actually make you have to have it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've actually got a two-parter in regards to that.
Sure.
I can't remember, and I do apologize if I got this wrong, but I believe it was the Parkland shooter, the one who, for the first time ever, his parents actually went on trial.
It's the kid from Michigan.
Michigan, right. So his parents went on trial, and
They did.
I believe that his mother just got convicted
Correct.
of manslaughter.
Manslaughter.
So I guess my two-part question is this. First off, you made a comment a while ago, there's a reason for that, whenever we were talking about 49 mass shootings in 45 days. I would like you to elaborate on that
Sure.
a little bit more, but then also, too, what is your thought process in terms of, like you said, storage is a huge thing. The amount of kids that go to school and their parents are just completely blinded by the fact that they had a gun at school.
Right.
That, to me, just based on how I was raised, which shout out to my parents, they did an amazing job. But just to me, I feel like it takes very little effort to know whether or not your gun is in a safe spot or not. Right. So can you kind of elaborate on that
Sure.
and then also answer the other?
I mean, what you want are responsible gun owners where they know where their gun is. I think there's not going to be a time in our country where these guns are all going to be taken and melted down, right? It just isn't going to happen. We have a Second Amendment.
People think that.
I know, but it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. So what are the things that we can do to make sure that we keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them and make people be accountable for the guns that they do have so that they're not used in mass shootings? And sadly, there is a parental responsibility if it's your gun. Now, one of the issues with the Michigan mom was that they actually went out and bought their child the gun, to use, and clearly children get up to all kinds of stuff that parents don't know about. I get that, but if you have a handgun or a gun in your home, you should know where it is.
For sure. I mean, I'm 27 years old, and just personally speaking, my dad, avid hunter, things like that.
Right.
I, to this day, have no idea what the code is to the safe.
Yeah.
And I feel like that if you've got a child,
Right.
First off, when I was growing up, obviously I was a part of that lifestyle as well.
Sure.
And control the muzzle was the biggest thing that was taught to us. I feel like that education side of it is what's missing. And so I feel like a lot of the cries for guns to be taken away, there's plenty of countries out here, just, in my opinion, that they take away that ability to defend yourself, and then you kind of see how the government takes over in that aspect. So I feel like there is a gray area to be in, per se, but I think that the education side is important. So
Let's talk about that.
for example, we go to school and we have sex ed class. Why don't
Do they still let you guys do that?
Well, I personally haven't been to school in a while, but I do know when I was
I'm pretty
in school.
sure they were trying to get rid of that too.
They gave us one lesson, and I ain't gonna lie, that
It was
scarred me
awkward
a
for
minute.
sure. Yeah,
That scarred me for a minute.
Yeah, it was
PE
awkward.
class, what?
What?
But you kind of get my point.
I do. I totally
why
get
is
your
that?
point.
Why is that not something that's also preached? If it's a given,
Yeah.
then why not
Why aren't we
address it?
Why aren't we better about making sure? Well, so first of all, I think this is also important. Tennessee got rid of having to have any kind of a license. Like you used to have a carry license,
Right.
And so
It's
you at
crazy.
least had to have some modicum of training before you were able to have this gun. We got rid of that. We Tennessee decided that no,
It's
you don't even
idiotic.
need to know. I mean, which is crazy. And I will tell you that I had a concealed gun permit. I never had a gun, but I had a concealed permit.
Right.
I did my 2-day training, and I was
Yeah.
no more equipped after 2 days
Yeah.
to defend you in any
Right.
kind of a situation.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but at least I knew how to handle the gun.
Right.
I think, being part of being a responsible gun owner is about knowing how to use your
Right.
tool and your weapon and stuff. And so, education. I mean, you want to talk about education? I think that one of the things that we're also doing in Tennessee is to really dumb down our education system, take out things like this that are common sense stuff, and that's not going to help us.
No. It's almost just like we're kind of working backwards. I mean, I just know my brother, he's a little bit younger than me. So I remember a little bit of when he was in high school and things like
Sure.
that. And I do know that, I mean, a lot of the criteria was still the same. But, I mean, we can even go back, and I'm sure, like, if you're on the dumpster fire that is Twitter and things like that,
Right.
you'll see people talk about how, I'm so glad I learned the Pythagorean theorem. That's really helping me with my taxes right now.
Well,
Right.
it doesn't mean
Right.
it's not an and or. It could just, I mean, it can be an and. And I mean,
Right.
so one of the things that I did is my undergraduate degree is in elementary education. So I got my degree in
Where'd you go to
elementary
school?
education. I went to Baker University in Kansas.
Kansas.
Shout out to
Okay.
the
Shout out to
Iowa
Baker.
guy back over there.
Yeah.
And so I got my degree in elementary education. I taught for like 10 minutes because it is the hardest job
Oh, yeah.
you can ever have is to be a teacher. So, shout out to teachers with everything that they have to do, they have to be, and so education, what we should be doing is making it easier for our kids to learn,
Right.
not harder.
For sure.
And we do a lot of hard.
It is, and the lack of compensation even too for teachers.
Yeah, that's
is,
crazy.
Is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I do want to change it up a little bit
Sure,
too.
go on.
I want to get
Okay.
to some fun stuff here.
Yeah.
So Mayor's over here a little disgusted by the fact that you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
I for one
What?
though.
That wasn't love I was feeling?
It was bitter
you
love.
my dog.
Bitter love.
You my dog. Two
It's all
mayors.
good. It's all
We
good.
two mayors, so we
Two
got something in
mayors,
common.
right, exactly.
You know what I mean? But I got my stories. But go ahead.
However, though, since you grew up in Kansas, I give you the pass because you were there when Alex Smith was there. You were there long before even when Joe Montana came and played his 1 year there.
Elvis
Listen, I was
Gerback.
there for Lenny Dawson,
Yeah.
so that's probably not even
Who?
exactly.
Yeah, so so we have to respect
Jan
it a little bit.
Stenerud.
We have to respect it a little bit, but so Kansas, what brought you to Nashville?
So what brought me to Nashville was Vanderbilt. So
Okay.
I came here to go to school, like lots of people, and I was going to stay 18 months, get my MBA, leave, go bye-bye, Nashville, whatever, 30 many years later,
Right.
here I am.
It's just like the Bachelorettes. They think they're going to be here for 4 days, and they come here and become citizens in Nashville, and that's why our
Literally.
population is so high. Yeah.
Well,
There you
so,
go.
And I guess kind of elaborating on that side too, because this was another one I wanted to ask you. Just in
Sure.
comparison of when you were mayor
Yep.
to now, I remember Nashville, even though I'm from Cookeville, I remember Nashville back when you could still kind of walk around downtown and it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't all bars. So for you, in comparison to, back when you were mayor, because the growth has been insanity over the past few years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you, maybe advice for the next mayor, but more so just for you, how would you have kind of approached the rapid growth that we've had?
So when I was in office, one of the things I used to say to folks is having a city that's growing is a great problem to have.
Absolutely.
Because it beats the alternative. And we've all been in places that are not growing, and you see what that gets you. But it does take management. It does take planning. It does take, infrastructure. It takes all those things. I don't know if you saw today, the new mayor announced a transit initiative that's going to put more sidewalks out and stuff, so making it more walkable.
Right.
As far as downtown, I definitely have seen the shift from, do you go down there?
I try to stay away from.
Do we go down
So
there?
we're the
Does he go down
Midtown
there?
boys. That's the
Yes.
name of the podcast.
Right,
so
right.
we're more in the
In the
Midtown
Midtown?
area.
Okay.
I
We
try
be
my
out there.
hardest to stay away from what we call the woo girls
No, we
on
don't.
Broadway.
Uh-huh.
So,
okay.
whenever they got their pink cowboy hats, woo, on the
I know
pedal
the woo
taverns.
girls.
I
So,
don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, but-
speak for yourself.
can't
So-
keep him away from
So
that.
so I guess my question is more like, do you, your friends, locals, are they headed downtown?
Yeah,
or
we going down there Saturday. What you mean?
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah, we
awesome.
be there. When people,
Um,
I hate when people say, "Oh, I'm from Nashville. I don't go downtown." I feel like people that say they don't go to Broadway are just trying to sound cooler than probably what they actually are. Because I be seeing everybody that I
You've
grew
been
up
seeing
with.
everybody down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody.
Fair
lying.
enough.
I
Okay, fair
personally
enough.
disagree. Anytime I'm down there, I had a bag thrown over my head and was thrown in the back of a van. So
Anytime? Like how many times?
I saw it one time.
it happens a lot.
Really? Okay.
Maybe you could help me get that.
Well, I would actually like to know more, because that is probably the most interesting thing that you've mentioned.
Speaking of transit in a growing city, I'm pretty sure you were in office at this time, but traffic is obviously bad.
Yes, it is.
You got here a little late. You're a punctual woman, so I'm sure
It was
that
a little bad.
Yeah, it was a little bad. So I'm pretty sure, and you can confirm this with me, when you were in office, that they put on the ballot like a subway system. And folks shot it down. Why folks being stupid like that? Because I was
need
living in
one.
Sumner County at the time, so I could not vote for it. But I was like, yeah, we're going to get a subway. I used to live in Atlanta, so like the subway was cool, you know what I mean? But folk in Nashville didn't want to
Yeah,
do
well,
that.
actually that was my transit initiative.
Yeah, you come up with all the good
um,
ideas, Runner.
So, well, I say my, but I was in office.
Say mine. No, yeah.
It was a lot of community input in it, and
works,
yeah, it went down spectacularly. Like, not only did it lose by like a couple
By a
points,
landslide.
people didn't want it.
Lost like Romney back in the day. Oops.
And so we're going to try again. Oftentimes cities that try to do transit initiatives, it fails the first time.
Right.
And it was big, it was bold, it was going to do a whole lot, and maybe folks just weren't ready at that time to have as much that we were going to do.
How many years ago was that?
That was in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
So not too long ago. I mean, the expansion was definitely happening. I'll say one thing that I always preach is that the engineers who set up just how our interstates run, they did a great job, because you can get, without the traffic, you can get from one side to the other side of of Nashville relatively quickly. but I have always said a subway would be fantastic. Me not living here in 2018, I did not know that was your initiative. So I'm 100% behind
There was
that.
light rail. There was a piece that went underground that was in downtown. So because we needed to figure out a way to bring, what we were going to do is we were going to bring it in to where the Predators play. So it was going to come in there. And you know, there are a lot of people who were like, you know, that's, you know, crazy. But it was much more about light rail and a system. And what we heard from all the other counties around us, because to your point, it is about the people coming in from Sumner who are having a hard time. But they were all like, look, if you build it, then we'll connect to it, right? Like, but if you don't build it, we're not going to, in Sumner County, we're not going to build some rail to the county line and then hope that Davidson County does it.
And Sumner County need to be ashamed of themselves, because I was raised in Hendersonville, so we had like gotten this new park, right? And they put the sign saying the Nashville Star, and I'm like, oh, you know, that's
right, which is
great.
awesome. That's the train.
And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm going, you know, I'm walking in the park, running in the park or whatever. All of a sudden, the sign is gone. I'm like, whoa, what's up with the train? You know, it's just I don't, because you know me, you know, I travel a lot. I go to LA a lot. I go to Atlanta. I go to Chicago, and all of these great cities, they have subway systems because they need it, right?
Well, they have mass transit is what they have, and and
appreciate that.
What we ultimately end up with is it's so funny because you go to other places. And you will use it.
Yeah.
But then there are all these folks here who are like, I never use it. Like, yeah, you actually would use it.
Yeah.
And you all probably don't remember. There were all kinds of scare tactics that the opposition used. It was like
taxes.
Well, it wasn't it was taxes, but it was also like, these people are going to get on the bus and come to your neighborhood.
And what's that supposed to mean?
And steal your TV. I'm like, what? And then they're getting back on the bus? What?
Yeah.
Who are you people? Anyway.
I just don't want to see people complaining about the traffic all day on Facebook and Snapchat. Oh, look at this traffic. It's so bad. Nashville is terrible. Like, one of my friends, he's married to another friend of mine. He's like, I don't know how you live downtown, Frederick. You know, the traffic, you know, like Nashville shithole. We can cuss on this podcast, so feel free. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks. And I'm just like, okay, well, you guys were doing all this complaining. But it says, I can't blame the local government because you guys had put it on the ballot for us to get it on there.
Gave it an opportunity.
And y'all talking about taxes.
Right. Well, the way that this one was funded, of course, it is always about the funding, is the heavy lifting was going to be done by tourists. The taxation was going to be on hotel, motel, rental cars. You know, we were going to make the tourists pay for the transit.
Well, folk don't even like them anyway. I do. But folk don't even like them.
I love tourists.
I love them.
I mean, we want them here. We weren't going to price them out of coming here.
Right.
But, you know, that was where we were going to get those revenue streams to help pay for it, because it is always a conversation about how do you pay for this stuff?
Right. Yeah.
You know, because it almost always isn't fun. It's never going to raise enough money to be funded by the users. Right. So it's more like a utility. You know, you have to have it, but you're not making any money.
For sure. Right. So, well, let's get back, I guess, a little bit to the reason why you are here. What is the biggest thing in your mind? Like, if you were to go into Congress and you accomplished blank, what would that be that you could just hang your hat on?
Sure. So one of the biggest things right now is body autonomy for women, making sure that they have the right to make healthcare decisions about what they want to do with their personal health. And it's, you know, state by state, there, you know, you've got these different initiatives. They're putting abortion on the ballot. It's never going to happen in Tennessee because we don't even have the capacity to put something on the ballot to change our Constitution. So, you know, that's going to have to be taken care of at the federal level.
Right.
And so restoring that right after having that right taken away from women is
awful.
A really big deal.
It's awful. And the crazy thing is the people that were, I guess, responsible for taking off the ballot, they probably got like 5, 6, 7 abortions.
Yeah, you know,
it's hypocritical. You know,
the idea that I, as a woman, have less rights now than I did a few years ago is insane. Crazy, and and especially for women your age.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like, and you know, we're starting to see this impact to recruiting younger people here, who are like, I'm not going to move to a state where I can't access health care if I need it. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I just, you know, with me, like how I feel, you know, I'm not wishing that some girl that's having a baby aborts it for no reason.
Absolutely.
But I think that she should have that right, number one. Number two, is when, unfortunately, unfortunately, like she is raped. I do believe that she should be able to have an abortion. I had a friend that, unfortunately, when she had her child, she lost her life. Unfortunately,
right, and that's crazy.
And she should have been able, to get an abortion if the doctor had told her, like, hey, I know you want to birth this child, but if you do this, you're most likely going to lose your life. And I think that she chose, because I don't think that the overturn of that law had happened yet. That was about 3 or 4 years ago. But the thing is, if the doctors were able to see that, she should have been able to have that option. And the fact that women aren't able to have that option is a big disservice to women.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And in Tennessee, it's not just about women who go on to have babies. Our I mean, that's a lot of it. The maternal health numbers for people in Tennessee is really bad, like especially for Black women. You see a tremendous drop off on access to healthcare, and that has a huge impact on their health and their baby's health.
Absolutely. Sure. I saw the I believe it was in Kentucky, the guy that ended up winning governor of Kentucky.
Bashir.
One of his biggest ad runs that he had was with this young girl who she basically just came on and told her story about how she had been raped, and then I believe that she ended up having to get an abortion, if that's correct. And I remember watching that, and obviously we live in the deep South in the Bible Belt. A lot of people have this narrative, and it's kind of like what you were saying earlier with scare tactics. I feel like a lot of, and I definitely don't want to call them unintelligent or uneducated, but a lot of people have thoughts that are based on a foundation that's kind of outdated, especially with all of the technology and knowledge that we now have.
Right.
So with those scare tactics of, it's against God to have an abortion or things like that, where do you kind of stand on that?
Sure. I mean, I think what you're talking about, and it's very real, is extremism. And you take the most extreme example of something and then you try to make that the norm.
Right.
So this idea that you're saying, well, the majority of people who are accessing, abortion care are people in their third trimester who are, going to kill the baby 5 minutes before it's born.
Right. Yeah.
It's just
the
not
narrative
true,
is that,
right? But it's just not true. The most people who access this kind of care, it happens very early in their pregnancy for all kinds of reasons. And so, but the fear factor is the one that resonates. And so, I just wish we would start having more, honest conversations. There was a politician who used to say this. He was a politician. He was also a president. He used to say that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. That sounds good to me, right? Yeah. Like, you should make it safe, you should make it legal, and then you make sure you educate people so it's rare.
I feel like it says I feel like that it says a lot because you're not, and I feel like sometimes the narrative is if you support abortion, then you support killing babies, but that's not true, what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm getting at, kind of with the outdated thought process.
Right, exactly.
And so, for you, as someone that is trying to go into Congress, I feel like the new generation that's coming up in the government here in Tennessee, I have a lot of faith in them. And I do think that they are going to help change it for the better. I feel like a lot of the people that we have migrating to Tennessee is going to kind of change this from a deep red state to almost a very, very much so blue state. And so I feel like that, with that said, having people like you, having people like, I think it's Justin Jones. Yeah, Justin Jones.
Pearson.
He's somebody that he stands on what he believes in.
Absolutely.
And I feel like with some Republicans, because like I said, this is a state that I grew up in, I feel like the narrative that's always been pushed with Republicans, you get the trust factor a little more if you live in the area that's very Republican.
Sure.
But getting to be here and make your own assessment, being at our age now and social media being so attainable, I'm very excited for where Tennessee is heading. And, having what was it, Justin Jones, having people like him in office. I remember whenever he stood up in front of, I think it was the House.
It sure was.
And that's a bold thing to do, especially as, somebody that is of, I believe, African-American descent. So for him to do something like that, it just shows like the statement that I guess y'all are trying to push, that we're with you. We've got your back. And I think for women, that's a big deal,
Thanks.
Knowing that there are people that have the ability to make decisions backing them, I think it's huge. So I do want to commend you on that.
Thank you
very much.
And I too will tell you that whenever I go and talk to folks that are in a younger demographic, I always come away being like, you know what, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
We're the ones that screwed it up. So these guys are going to be the ones that are going to fix it. And folks like Representative Jones. There's a young woman running down in Clarksville. Her name is Allie Phillips. You might have seen her story. She needed to access health care because her baby died in utero, and she couldn't actually get the health care that she needed here. She had to fly to New York to do it, which is ridiculous. So she's running.
I think I've seen a picture.
Yeah.
With you.
So Allie, and she's young. I think she's in her 20s. So there are lots of folks I think out there that are lending their voices like you all are. I mean, you both, first of all, are incredibly engaged with everything you know about politics. You are paying attention, and that in of itself is a big deal.
Yeah, we're not just rappers, you know what I'm saying?
No.
You know what I'm saying? We just don't be going to 10.
Right.
We know what we're
Well,
talking about.
I do think, though, this was one, because me and Mayor, he had told me about potentially having this opportunity months ago. And we were still in the, I guess, origin stage of us even doing the podcast.
Right.
So I've never taken a deep stance in politics. I'm a firm believer that, yes, we have the ability and are blessed to live in a democracy.
Right.
But at the point that it's at, with the circles that are ran between the House and the Senate, depending on who gets elected president, it just seems like, kind of like what you're saying, nothing gets done.
Right.
So it is something from my end that I look into, and I don't think that I have necessarily that one voice that's going to change everything, but I do think I can contribute. And I think that that's something, like what you were pushing at the beginning. People our age, we now have a voice. Things that, used to be a big deal to us when we were a kid, like being able to have ice cream. If we want that for breakfast now, we can have it. And we can also help change our country for the better.
Absolutely.
And I just feel like, it's nice to hear someone in your position kind of almost swallow your pride, even though you may not be part of the problem necessarily, but you understand that older generation has been what set us up to be in the position we are. People look at us and they wonder why we're not able to make ends meet in certain ways, and they consider us lazy. That's not the case. We're making triple what y'all were making in the 70s and 80s, but we're paying more.
Right.
So
right.
It's definitely you being able to be in touch with that, I think will speak to a lot of people our age. And
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So going back to what you kind of mentioned before, extremism, probably started, I want to say it started about 2012 when I kind of just started to see this flip. You yourself, you identify as a Democrat, and Republicans, I knew that, growing up as the party of Lincoln. Both of the parties were always pretty respectable. Even if you didn't agree with what either party was saying, you respected them because it wasn't a damn clown show.
Right.
And so now it's just, like, I feel like politics is like WWE, like you can't even take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like how did we, like Meg, like how do we get here?
Well, I will tell you that I do think that it is very fractured.
Yeah.
I think what we've lost is the ability to say the other person might be right.
Ego.
Yeah.
Not everything I'm saying is, maybe everything that we have to do. Maybe that person actually has something that we should do. They might be right. And I think that's the piece we've lost.
Yeah.
There is no conversation. We're not talking. I mean, you did just see a bipartisan bill come together on the border, and there was a lot of hard work on that, and it's not going to go anywhere because the House is not going to take it up because the president Trump, who's running, and who's definitely going to be, I think, the nominee, has basically told his party, don't do anything. I want to run on this issue. So don't, stop it all.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, they will. And,
Right.
and as opposed to, and look, that bill that is being presented, it's not perfect. But I think anymore, it's like, we just don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, I think is that phrase, right? Like sometimes you just pass something good and then you keep working on it.
Build on it.
Yeah, and build on it. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's not going to happen.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good.
Go ahead.
So speaking of the border, obviously, that's a part of Homeland Security, and obviously, yesterday, Cass, I'm not sure if you know, but the person that's over Homeland Security, lack of a better word, Alejandro Mayorkas, he was impeached yesterday. What's your thoughts on that?
He was impeached on Tuesday, and
yeah.
then Mark Green, who was head of the impeachment, resigned or said he wasn't going to run yesterday. He basically took a victory lap and said, we impeached him, so my work is done here.
Yeah, and Mark Green, you lucky because we was getting ready. I had questions today, Mark Green, when you see this.
Well,
look, man, we had questions, and he knew.
He knew.
Somebody told.
He knew.
Somebody told Mark Green.
I sent him a DM.
Meg-
He sent him a DM.
Meg was coming to
I was
the
coming.
Midtwn
No.
Podcast, so he already. He's
He's like, I gotta go.
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Absolutely. Well, I think before we were actually on air, I said to you that what he said when he left yesterday was that Congress is broken. And so he said it's broke, and instead of sticking around and trying to fix it, he's leaving the building and apparently taking a victory lap. But I think that's part of the problem is that there isn't a lot of folks who actually want to work on the problem.
Right.
And so, but you know what?
Yeah.
He's going to come back here. He's going to run for governor. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will.
So I'm guessing that's another reason why you call them the Do Nothing Party. too.
Well, it's easy to call them the Do Nothing Party because they don't do nothing.
You be in the office with them. You probably see they probably on like Facebook. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, so you in the building, so she already she already knows that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have an upcoming election. It's coming up, presidential election in March. We have two candidates. We have the current president Joe Biden. We have the former president Donald Trump. Third, fourth, which one is it?
It's March 5th.
No. I'm talking
Oh.
about like, is he the first, the second, the third? I'm talking about Donald Trump. Like, ain't he the second, the third?
Oh, he's got some.
Yeah, junior.
But
whatever.
isn't there a Don Jr.? So he
No,
just
he
must-
might be senior.
I think he's just senior.
Something like that. It don't
Yes,
even
he
matter.
is.
So we
yes,
have.
he is.
Yes, he
So
is.
we have seen. Yeah, it does matter. So we have seen, all of these trials about accusations, against the former president, and it just kind of seems like there's no resolution. Like,
Well, that's why you have courts.
Yeah.
He's in court today. There's two different court
He in
cases.
court every day.
I know.
Yeah.
So he's got two court cases today. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, people will make a decision based on who they want to see in office.
Right.
And I don't think his hardcore supporters will care one way or the other.
They won't. It's that extremist that you were talking
Exactly.
about. So I know we're about to probably have to wrap it up
Yeah.
here soon. However, one question that I did want to ask you is kind of feeding off of that. The fact that the last couple presidents that we've had in office, it seems like the entirety of their time in office, they've been on trial, and we've been trying to impeach them, whether it was Trump or Biden. Do you think that helps or it hurts? Because I feel like that kind of creates an even deeper divide
Sure.
as to what you were talking about between the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious, what is your stance on that? And once you get into Congress, is that something that you think your voice might be able to, let's come together instead of trying to divide?
Right. I think that's right. And I think this idea that we're going to, again, spend so much energy, so much time going through these trials, and it's like, for what? The American people actually just want you to pass legislation, get things done.
To help us
Right.
while you're there.
Some people just want their food stamp card.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep it real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And making sure that Social Security is safe, making sure that we've got a way to defend our country. I mean, there's so much that
Right,
we
right.
just that's what we want. We don't want these trials.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just pointless. It's just, hey, if y'all don't want Donald Trump to run, you feel like that it's going to be illegal for him to run, let's do that instead of, I mean, he's been on trial longer than OJ was. So, like, my thing is, like, look, if y'all are going to allow him to run, let him run so we can get this on out the way.
I mean, let's just, he didn't win last time.
See what he does this time.
Let's try to do the same
I feel like
thing.
it hurts almost. I feel like it hurts you more to feed into that narrative that maybe he's trying to create of I won. It was a mail-in fraud. All of that. I feel like it kind of feeds into the narrative for him. Like if Democrats just almost didn't feed into it, I think that it still looks a lot better ratings-wise for you guys, even if Republicans don't agree with Joe Biden's, the way that he's handled himself necessarily, or Kamala. But I feel like that just feeding into the media, people are so tired of our elections and our presidential races being so media driven. I know other countries look at us and laugh.
Yeah. Well, they do. They do it a lot shorter time frame. So, I mean, I do think that is a really great point, because in my lifetime, I think back, what has had the most attention? I mean, when I was growing up, there were the Watergate trials, right? And that was like a summer. Mm-hmm. But that was it. Like, then, like, the rest of the presidents, like, nobody had this kind of constant barrage of, that we were having to pay attention to this all the time. You just, like, trusted that the government was running, and, like, you just moved on with your life. Yeah. But now it is, I do think people are exhausted. I think that people are exhausted about government. They're exhausted about elections. I mean, we're trying to do a mix of, like, positive, to be like, hey, like, this is the stuff that we want to be for, instead of always being like, this is all the stuff we're against.
Right.
It's just, I just hate how this is really just fry people's brains, like with the fake votes, with the last election.
Like all the AI stuff. I mean, that's
I remember I was on a date one time. I took outkicked my coverage, not gonna lie, right? Took this girl to the Predators game, great girl, love her to death, right? And then, like, I started seeing her post about, fake votes, all the rhetoric that goes around. And it really turned me off, bro. Like, I'm still, like, hurt about it to this day. Like, I'm just ready for her to get, like, unbrainwashed so I can slide back in. You feel me? Like, I hate it, Yeah.
Well, I'll say this, because I know you've got some work you got to do at 3.
I do. And so I'm going to ask for, like, a public service announcement for 1 minute, if I can do that. So I'm going to just mention, so I know that y'all probably may or may not remember this, but when I was in office, my son died of an overdose, and he was 22. And so if I get an audience anytime, I want to always say, first of all, we have to talk about this. The shame, the stigma is what keeps this disease in the darkness. Lots of people struggle. If you're struggling, please seek help. If you know somebody who's struggling, please reach out. And you can do a couple things. One is, if you have medicine in your cabinets at home, count it. Know how much you have there. If you're not using it, lock it up. It kind of goes back to that responsible gun owner, right? Lock it up. And if you're not using it at all, drop it off. You can take it to CVS, Walgreens. They'll take your drugs back. I just know that when my son died, almost everything he had in him was a prescription drug, but he didn't have a prescription for any of it. Wow. But somebody else did. So just know where your prescription drugs are. And you can carry Narcan. And you should carry it. I have it with me right now. Absolutely. It's legal in Tennessee. We got that passed. It's not considered now, illegal. So you can get it over the counter from a pharmacy. You buy somebody time if you give them Narcan if they're overdosing. It gives them time to get a paramedic. In Davidson County, at one point we were averaging like 100 overdoses a week. That didn't mean that people were dying. It just meant that people were overdosing. Right. So help them get the help they need. Absolutely. That's my public service announcement. So thanks.
Well, Ms. Berry, I will tell you this much. I appreciate you very much for coming in today. And I have so much more respect for you than I already did have. Thanks. I would say it's safe to say And I'm sorry to all the Midtown girls, but we have the head Midtown girl
this
in here
is
today.
Midtown.
no.
Absolutely,
Really?
absolutely.
Well, all right.
Alexa and all y'all got y'all work cut out for you. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Absolutely. But seriously, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
coming in. And
inviting
best
me.
of luck to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
And we will absolutely be supporting you.
Thank
If you need us to put out some signs around, you know,
absolutely.
if you got stickers, we'll put them in the 10
You
room
bet.
bathroom.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We got
Bet. They'll come like in May, but
Yeah, we
please,
got you.
please vote.
Absolutely.
Get registered.
Get registered today.
Absolutely.
You ain't doing nothing. Get
And after
registered
you
today.
win, we got to have you back.
Well, you're coming
Yeah.
up. No, well, you're coming to DC.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're
A
going to hold you to
tour,
that.
all kinds of stuff.
We're going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
Hold me to
All right.
it.
Yeah,
It's done.
we
Let's
gonna
do
Done.
it.
hey,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Done.
We in there now.
Done.
Take on
Let's
DC.
do it.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Capitol Hill.
Excited about it. But this has been the Midtown Podcast. We appreciate everybody who has watched this and is listening. Y'all take care.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks.
Midtown boys. We're going to get some pictures with Megan now.